Okay, now in this fourth part of the prokaryotic chapter, we're going to be looking at why prokaryotic organisms are important. First and foremost, it seems that as though the only prokaryotic organisms that you may have heard of have been the pathogenic ones. But by far and away, they serve probably their most important function as decomposers in many, many environments. They are great decomposers in almost every habitat on the earth. And one of the reasons that they are so good at this is that many of them can switch from aerobic to anaerobic respiration to continue to break down nutrients in the absence of oxygen. In addition, many algae form the basis for aquatic and marine food chains, and some algae even have the ability to fix nitrogen, whereas fixing carbon through the photosynthetic process is important. Fixing nitrogen from its atmospheric diatomic gas to nitrates and nitrites is equally important. And so here we see a blue-green algae called nostoc, and you can see that this colony of these prokaryotic cells has some cells capable of photosynthesis, but then every so often there is a larger modified cell in this colony called a heterocyst, and this heterocyst has the ability to fix nitrogen. Now, many prokaryotic organisms are able to form symbiotic relationships with other organisms. These symbiotic relationships are found in all different groups of living things. And remember that the word symbiosis refers to together life. So the host is the larger and the symbiont is the smaller organism in the relationship. We can break down symbiosis and look at mutualistic or mutualism, in which case both the host and the symbiont benefit. We can look at a parasitic form of symbiosis, in which case the host is negatively impacted while the symbiont benefits. Or we can look at commensalism, where the host and the symbiont are either benefiting or have no impact at all. So a couple of examples of these symbiotic relationships. Here's a mutualistic example. This is the flashlight fish. The flashlight fish has some bioluminescent bacteria in this little area underneath its eye. And when these bacteria get stimulated, they begin to give off light as an excess form of energy, much like living things give away heat. Because the fish utilizes this light for communicating with other fish, the example here of both organisms benefiting is mutualism. Now, for a parasitic prokaryotic example, we're going to be looking at, in fact, two parasites. So this spiral-shaped bacteria causes a disease known as Lyme's disease. And a person contracts Lyme's disease by being bitten by a deer tick. Now, the deer tick is also a parasite. But when the deer tick carrying Lyme disease bites a person, the Lyme disease parasite can be transmitted to the new host. Lyme's disease is very dangerous, and if you ever get bitten by a tick and you notice the area around the tick becoming red or swollen, you need to seek medical care very, very quickly. Lyme disease was first noted in Lyme, Connecticut, where it was found in the summertime. Many children were discovered exhibiting symptoms like rheumatoid arthritis. And so doctors quickly learned that it wasn't rheumatoid arthritis. It was, in fact, a disease carried by a tick. It was most common in the summertime simply because the kids were out of school and they spent more time playing in the woods and therefore were more susceptible to getting bitten by the deer tick. Some other important pathogenic bacteria are Vibrio, which causes cholera, Clostridium botulinum, which is the bacteria that causes food poisoning like botulism, and then you have Escherichia coli or E. coli, which is usually a harmless symbiont in humans' lower gastrointestinal tract. However, different strains have evolved that can cause some very dangerous diarrhea if it gets misplaced into the upper parts of the digestive tract. Now, other bacteria have been manipulated for use in gene therapy using their plasmids for cloning. Their very simple plasmid circular DNA is easily cut open with restriction enzymes, and scientists have been able to insert genes from other organisms into these plasmids, creating recombinant bacteria. And these recombinant bacteria are sort of used as little pharmaceutical factories for everything from making drugs like insulin to a host of uh, other industrial products, something as far-fetched even as spider silk. And then finally, bacteria are often utilized as agents in what's called bioremediation. This is using these bacteria as cleaning organisms to remove pollutants from soil, air, or water. Bioremediation is sometimes seen in the news where you have a chemical spill or an oil spill, and they will drop huge cultures of these bioremediating bacteria on the surface to help clean this up.